Jets, Jets. Welcome, guys. So there's a lot of bereavement I had to readjust, even though I didn't have a specific time until at the latest date. Um, but by the way, though, I was at New York watching the Jets game from week one. It was a phenomenal. I met to have a great time there with the tailgate party, with the NY Jets Media Day. Met Richie there, and some other great people and local people there of my stay in Texas. They all just like surprisingly there, like, oh wow, But yeah, everything was so phenomenal. I do want to remark that wherever I said about the live chat, thing that I was trying to mention about, I couldn't, register with the process of making live of, certain Instagram because it didn't allow me or shouldn't like access me to do that. So I gotta figure it out wherever it's possible for me to do like live reaction stuff. But it was just like, I wish you guys would have seen that. And of course, I would try and like, repost that actual the footage while I was at the game, which it was not a little bit much, but um, I'll get some little bit clips about it later on as the video follows. For the last night or for last night from the last week's game, I'm getting a little bit tough enough about that. Just real quick before going into week two games, it's like a couple hours. Just wanted to say that we have to take one game at a time. I do love our offense, phenomenal. Um, Justin Fields looks like a different QB as expected. He's like making the ball right adjustments, but how we lost that last drive. That's given tough. Pittsburgh Steelers defense with Jalen Ramsey, the last iconic tackle to Garrett Wilson's reception or deflection per se. That's tough loss for us, but they both are outstanding, did great. I didn't see no dirtiness about that football game. I'd see Garrett Wilson's catch from that first the greatest second drive of the overall game. It just dreams come true for that. All the touchdowns, Justin Fields rushing touchdown, that QB sneak. That's like people thought he was giving the ball to someone, but he just faded to the right side, made a little jet move like all the Jets players did. It's all great, and of course, Brees Hall looks like a different guy. He has some blockage. For God's sakes, we've been looking to see finally. I hope that comes down to this game against Buffalo Bills. Of course, they have Oliver that's out. Accordingly, that's in the news for the report for the depth chart. We have some guys that are out too, more likely to. I think it's Josh Reynolds and some other running back, like I forgot his name, but I can't pronounce it. But I know we all know at this point. So by all means, why my thoughts about this game week two? Um, it's gonna be just easy as it goes to say, it's gonna be just another rivalry game, but we have to tough for ourselves because the Buffalo Bills, they're also the biggest contestants in AFC, not just Chiefs. And Josh Allen with the starting QB, he earned an MVP last year. So where, ball wise he has, and also weapons, what he has is gonna, aggressively, see our defense will wake up for it. So, Sauce Gardner, he did well last game. I just expect him to make the greatest coverage he has. Other than the backfield wise, like Cisco, Tony Eyes, I believe, that those guys, as long as they stick with the coverage space wise, which they will against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, keep it up. But there's some like touchdowns that, currently they screw up the red zone. That's the only thing they need to retouch. Because that's one of the few things that they would have at least put the points down with that adjustment. But it's tricky. I get it's tricky with how the best offense in the leagues, they just, find a way to, like, restructure the division feud that are expectation for the Heights. That's why, it comes down to that. It's kind of like misconception of that call. So I get that. But of course, we had that scrimmage line with the, guys in front blitzing, Quincy Williams, you know, all those guys, bro, like Sherwood. Like, I hope that, they can distinguish what the Buffalo Bills have in the line, you know. It's going to be just a great game for as such. Um, but, so I think that's going to be possible for that. Jets will have to put down downs, and of course with the offense we blatantly did the last game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hope the same aspect against the run. Um, I think that will be the greatest thing at our site, seeing that we finally have an offense that we can actually score and competitive against others. Um, I just believe my heart that what I saw in vision, even I was at the game at New York, um, you know, it was just like, I think the Jets are back. I think they do. As long as they keep up what they done, the strategy from last week, because it looks like they had the greatest run of their lives. I mean, even if it's just a one game that we all thought it's good, they could at least brought back, just do it again. Do it fucking again with the outstanding. I mean, look at how Mimbu done. I heard nothing else but greatness. I didn't hear remarks that he has done. He actually, I seen the tape of what he has done. He's doing his job, at least for that. I don't see that he's a terrible player at all. He did outstanding, the way that he's supposed to be as a player, a Jet player actually. To be protected against, the guys that are blitzing up front. TJ Watt was given like a greatest welcome. It's just for me to see that we chose in the draft, that we chose someone that's going to play for us carefully and I seen great, tells me also that the Jets are not going to give up with this team. So I believe that's going to happen this season. We're not going to give in on our side. So last year, last year was just like we keep losing. But this team with Aaron Glenn on the run makes it more like potential passionate, that he really wants to everybody jet the F up. That's why you love to see the baddest Jets that we've seen so far in years. So with that, all that keys to down, I think with this potential season that we have in our hands, we could do anything. Sure, one game loss against a week one against the Steelers. Come on, dude. It's just like a wake up call, but we could at least won that game. Actually, we could have won games that it was just almost a little bit of mistakes, and like Xavier Gibson that's gone and it caused all the game ruckus. You're gonna didn't want to see that again, and he just showed like it just how we want to win football games. I think it's best for him to not to exist him in the field. I praise him for Gibson, for Xavier Gibson for many years that he stayed for the Jets. Of course, with that iconic overtime Monday Night Football punt return touchdown, which it blow our Jets' minds up and shockingly the whole world. The week one, it could have been a different story with last week, but it just has to be different ended. So that's my take right here for the Buffalo Bills game. And of course, the little remarks of last week, I couldn't ever stream and such because, I didn't have the select the button for me to go live. If that comes down to FC Live, I'll let you guys know. Sorry for that late run talk. So for me to take this game, for this guessing score, even though I feel like a little bit cocky, this is just like any licensing, for me, honestly, I see this game just like the last week, it's gonna be like most definitely a closest game. For this game, differently, I think it's gonna be very touchdown close. I take this ball game absolutely crazy to say, I'll say 24-17 Jets. And it seems a bit odd. It seems a bit like unusual score, but that's my take right there. So, yeah, I think the Jets will win this game 17-24. It could be finally their dub for the year or such, where they built such wise. I'm not saying they're not going to win more, but, just the bestest win of the year. So, but yeah, let's look forward to watch this game and hopefully my reaction, definitely, which I didn't do last week because I was at Funville with New York. I'll show you my reaction of how things went, and there's gonna be a lot of talk about Jets football this time, and I won't fail this time. So sorry for that last week. This is gonna be a new me. So hope you guys have a great day of football Sunday, and hopefully we'll have the greatest time of our lives. JTS, Jets, Jets, Jets.